I caught my boyfriend with my best friend, so I broke up with him and slept with the man my best friend had secretly loved for years. When I discovered I was pregnant, I planned to leave the father and keep the baby. But the man blocked my doorway, declaring, "This child, I want it too." Subscribe now, the story begins. Truth is, the child wasn't my official boyfriend's. Back then, Eddie and I had been smoothly dating for 2 years. We were on the verge of discussing marriage, even bought the wedding dress, when he suddenly grew distant. His vague attitude was one thing. After all, I was busy with work, him not reaching out actually gave me peace of mind. But he absolutely shouldn't have let me catch him red-handed at a class reunion with my longtime friend Eve. It happened 4 months ago. I still remember him chasing me down the hallway, sweating buckets. It was just truth or dare. I lost and played along. "Christina, you're being way too dramatic." I laughed right then. Who wouldn't you do? Why did Eve have to sit on your lap? Honestly, even if it had been a hostess sitting on his lap, I could have shrugged it off. After all, with his looks and status, it's impossible for women not to throw themselves at him. But he absolutely shouldn't have gotten involved with Eve. From his inexplicably tongue-tied yet self-righteous expression, I seemed to glimpse the exhilaration of a gamble won, a brazen pride that took shame as glory, a reckless abandon that screamed, "Screw it all, none of you will get off easy." Just then, Eve's pale little face appeared behind the door, her eyes darting nervously between us. "Christina, we were just playing a game. All our old classmates are here. If anything were going on, we wouldn't do it in front of everyone. Eve, don't scare me." At that, she immediately shut up, her face growing even paler. Behind her, several blurry faces emerged, every one of them pointing fingers at me with shared indignation. "We were just having fun, Christina. You're overreacting. Never played truth or dare? Turning a class reunion into this? Where's Eddie supposed to put his face now?" "Exactly. Just say a few words, don't go overboard." Unbelievable. My best friend was sitting on my fiancé's lap, acting silly, and I was the one being unreasonable? Eddie seemed genuinely surprised to have so many people on his side. Seeing my shifting expression, he snapped back to reality and lowered his voice to explain, "Besides, she insisted on sitting over here. How is that my fault?" Hearing that, I gave him a thumbs up. "Nice. Really nice." I turned to Eve, her face flushed crimson, and smiled. "Looks like our goddess has descended to earth. Turns out her taste isn't so different from us mere mortals after all. How can you live with yourself, with that white moonlight in your heart?" Truthfully, it wasn't Eddie who caused me real pain, it was Eve's betrayal. She had little ability to support herself. After graduating college, she took a part-time sales job at an art gallery, working only half-days. Her income barely covered her own expenses, so she stayed in the apartment I bought for her. She lived there for 3 whole years. In those 3 years, I never asked her for a single penny. In return, she devoted herself to caring for my daily needs, witnessed the entire journey of my relationship with Eddie, and even occasionally teased him for being clueless and insensitive, insisting I deserved better. Knowing she had someone else in her heart, I trusted her completely, never doubting her. Yet she stabbed me in the back when I was most vulnerable. Driving home, their awkward glances and intimate smiles kept flashing before my eyes. The road ahead seemed to vanish, leaving only endless confusion swirling around me. He said it was just a fling. She said I shouldn't care. They tore apart the relationship I cherished most, then turned around and accused me of overreacting. What the hell went wrong? I racked my brain for answers. No answers. Instead, in my daze, I hit a metal vegetable fence by the roadside, and the tire blew out instantly. It was already dark. Vast wastelands stretched on either side, dotted sparsely with low cabbages extending hundreds of meters. Beyond the vegetable patch, however, there were lights, fires, and houses. 2 slender spruce trees held a long wire top between them, where several dusty garments fluttered ghost-like in the wind. Taking another deep breath, I caught a faint scent of stewed meat carried on the breeze. I parked the car in the vegetable plot and got out to take a closer look. A dark red sign stood at the entrance of the small house, bearing a few puzzling letters. Abortion. They do abortions here? Filled with questions, I stood at the doorway and called out. Startled, the person inside set down the bowl they were holding, their eyes filled with confusion. It was a young man, thick brows, dark eyes, long lashes framing sharp, clear fox-like eyes. His jawline was chiseled and sleek, carrying a faint air of melancholy. His striking good looks were so striking they made you automatically overlook the baggy shorts and old man's shirt he wore. Honestly, looks like that shouldn't be wandering around a wild vegetable patch full of cabbage stalks, especially in the middle of the night. It felt downright sinister. But the weirdness didn't stop there. What do you mean, abortion? Seeing his blank expression, I stepped back and squinted at the sign. That's when I realized I'd misread the direction of the characters. Turned vertically, it read, air inflation, tire repair, ahem, my mistake. I meant tire repair. My tire's flat. Oh. I locked eyes with him until he looked away. Where's your car? Out there, by the vegetable patch. All right. Next, I crouched under the car with this stranger. He shone his spotlight around for a while before declaring with certainty, you'll need to go into town to get a new tire. I don't have your size here. How am I supposed to get home then? I can put on a spare tire, and you can drive back slowly. No way, I wouldn't dare. He looked at me. I looked at him. For a long time. Then what do you suggest? I'll pay you to drive my car back to town for me. Is it really necessary to make it so complicated? 500. But it's too late now, 1,000. Fine. He relented, shuffling back in his mud-splattered slippers, probably to fetch the spare. As he neared the door, I called out. Brian! His stride remained smooth. Not even a moment's pause amid my desperate, ear-splitting gasps. He walked straight through the doorway. No. This was wrong. Could it be? I'd mistaken him for someone else? But that aura, that face, it was clearly the very man Eve had longed for, the moonlight she cherished in her heart for over a decade, wasn't it? The ride passed in silence. Dim streetlights filtered through the hazy car windows, outlining the silhouette of the man's sharply defined nose. Curled up in the passenger seat, I pondered his identity, utterly baffled. As we neared the city center, he glanced at me. Sit up straight. Getting caught will cost you points. Okay. I complied, then casually asked, what's your name? Tim, you're so handsome, you must have a girlfriend, right? He fell silent for a moment. No. Good. At least it lightened the psychological burden of the plan I was hatching. We pulled into the underground parking lot. He parked the car but stayed seated in the driver's seat, his quiet fox-like eyes fixed on me. I understood his meaning perfectly. I immediately pulled out my phone and flashed it at him. My phone's dead. Want to come upstairs with me to get some cash? No need. I'll wait here. That won't do, I flashed my signature 8-tooth grin. What if you drive off with my car? Who'd I complain to then? This young, handsome Tim proved surprisingly easygoing. He didn't argue, just silently followed me upstairs. When I came home from overtime before, Eve would always brew a pot of milk tea. We'd soothe the day's weariness together, relaxing comfortably on the balcony in the evening breeze. Today was no exception. A fresh, sweet aroma wafted through the hallway. The girl stood behind the counter in a light linen dress, greeting me with a warm smile. Back already? I made scones for you, whole wheat, so they won't make you fat. Yes, this was the Eve I remembered. Not that shameless bitch rubbing up against Eddie's leg. Not hungry. No thanks. I declined, then led the man into the room under her stunned gaze. To stall as long as possible, I charged my phone for a while before unlocking it and flashing him the QR code. Add me as a friend. I'll transfer the money to you. At the mention of payment, he complied. His profile picture was a white background with bright red text advertising his services, simply named Tim's Repairs. I promptly sent the money, but he stared at the amount with dissatisfaction, his tone tinged with doubt. Didn't you say 1,000? Right, 500 is the deposit. I emphasized with feigned righteousness, you take my car to the garage tomorrow. Once the tires are replaced, I'll give you the remaining 500. Thanks for your help, Master Tim. After the man left, Eve was nowhere to be found in the house. Only the sliding door to the balcony stood wide open, making my heart skip a beat. Sure enough, she was on the balcony, staring blankly at the distant traffic. Two dried tear stains streaked her cheeks, like the slimy trails left by some crawling creature, messy and dirty. Why did you do this to me? What, are you angry? Naturally, I didn't touch the milk tea she'd made. Instead, I poured myself a glass of ice water, sipping it while talking to myself. It's strange. I just treated you the way you treated me, and now you're angry? How can that be the same? She spun around, her voice shrill with disbelief. I've been secretly in love with him for over a decade. From school all the way to now. My feelings have never changed. I smiled faintly, holding up several fingers before her. First, don't forget, he's merely your crush. Not even your boyfriend. So I'm not violating any morals. Second, you have no right to judge me. You lost all standing the moment you started groveling at Eddie's feet. Third, you've stayed long enough. It's time to move out. The sheer weight of it all left Eve speechless. Her face flushed pale, still clinging to her victim persona while being forced to confront brutal reality. I had to remind her that life was full of problems far more agonizing than romance. Like, say, survival. Seeing her face contort with panic, I added another straw to the burden. Oh, and it'd be great if you could catch up on the rent. This is a penthouse in the city center. Market rate is $8,500 a month. Since you're sharing, that's $4,000. 3 years is 4,000 times 36. As her expression turned inscrutable, I spat out the figure. That's a total of $144,000. Christina, are you out of your mind? I didn't argue. Just snorted. Who's the crazy one here, exactly? Seeing my mocking expression, she dropped her earlier feigned sorrow and turned her face away in anger. Those usually warm, smiling eyes were dull, devoid of sparkle. I knew the gaze within held nothing kind. And what about me cooking and cleaning for you these 3 years, working my ass off like a maid? I chuckled. Clothes go in the washing machine, meals are mostly takeout. Fine, let's say I drink one of your bubble teas every day. I'll cut it in half and round down? Even that amounted to a hefty $70,000, an absolute fortune Eve, living paycheck to paycheck, could never scrape together. Her jaw clenched tightly. After a long moment, she mumbled, I can move out, but I don't have the money. A promissory note will do. I won't. Then move out sooner. I picked at my nails, pressing her without pause, denying her time to ruminate. If you leave tomorrow, I'll waive the rent. Christina! Here. Before me, this woman scrutinized me for a long moment with the gaze reserved for strangers. With such a hard heart, you'll never find happiness. The next day, Tim arrived punctually. The moment Eve saw him, her expression brightened. She even stepped forward to greet him, but he merely gave a faint nod, showing no particular interest. She visibly wilted. Meanwhile, I applied my makeup, donned a flouncy skirt, and sprayed on perfume, a subtle lemon scent with a hint of honey. Feeling triumphant, I followed him out, just moments later. Even though we were merely going together for an abortion, oh, wait, a tire repair, I was certain Eve still read revenge in my swaying, confident stride. The entire afternoon was spent at the tire shop, and honestly, there were no surprises. Tim was quiet, not much to say. Besides coordinating the repair, he sat on the cold bench playing with his phone. Honestly, his faded old t-shirt and threadbare boxers didn't detract from his handsomeness at all. His outwardly unkempt appearance and detached, carefree vibe combined to form this enigmatic quality about him. A wildness that couldn't be underestimated. It was utterly captivating. Once everything was settled, this enigmatic man once again served as my driver. When he dropped me off at home, our dramatic little episode came to an end. The moment I got in the car, my phone rang. It was Eddie. I don't block people, nor did I feel guilty, so I answered without hesitation. Little did I expect him to start off so bluntly. "What's going on? Eve said you won't let her stay?" "Yeah." "Seriously? Where the hell is she supposed to go in broad daylight? Renting a place overnight isn't feasible, is it? She can stay at a hotel." "You." He took a few sharp breaths before calming down slightly. "So this is the punishment from our great designer? Is that all you've got? You dealt with her. What do you plan to do about me?" Just as I was about to answer, the man beside me suddenly interjected, "Still coming to your place? We need a garage. That's more convenient." Before I could react, the line erupted. Eddie's usual falsely magnetic gravelly voice cracked. "Who's that with you? Why is it a young man? Why is he driving you home? Christina! Say something. Are you mute?" I didn't get a chance to speak. Just then, a DUI checkpoint had stopped the car. Several traffic cops surrounded us, their reflective vests blindingly bright. The man handed over his license and blew into the breathalyzer bottle with serious focus. The chaos continued on the other end of the line. I'd had enough. I hung up, blocked the number, and did the whole routine. Out of sight, out of mind. After that, the ride home went smoothly. Truthfully, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, nor did I plan to trouble Tim further. To thank him for the time he'd wasted on this, I transferred him $1,000. He took the money and left immediately, silent as ever. The truth was, he was quiet, and I was restless. Our natures simply didn't mesh. From then on, with the world stretching between us, there might never be a reason to meet again. Eve's departure came sooner than I'd anticipated. The egg-shaped sofa on the balcony, her usual spot, finally had no one to compete with me for it. Yet lying there felt strangely uncomfortable. Looking at the house, which seemed indescribably different, just emptier, I couldn't pinpoint my feelings. It felt free, yet hollow. After scrolling through my phone for a while, I couldn't resist clicking into her Moments feed. The first post was a 9-grid collage with the caption, "New surroundings, new feelings." Then I looked at the photos, holy crap. That Tiffany blue volleyball, the LV monogram puppy, and those standing acrylic figurines in the corner, weren't those all gifts I'd given Eddie? Just as I was feeling both amused and exasperated, a message popped up. "Christina, are you there?" I cursed under my breath at the screen. "How the hell are you still here?" A voice message came through from the other end. Perhaps because I just blocked them, their tone was noticeably gentler. "You blocked my number, but not the messaging app. Thanks, I'm on my way." As if reading my mind, the other party quickly sent another voice message. "Eve has nowhere to go. I can only take her in temporarily, but you have to trust my character, I believe you." "Of course I do." I replied with a voice message of my own, sounding calm, "You're so high and mighty. If Eddie ever gets caught up in something, it's all because some woman tricked him, right?" The other party sighed. "Christina, we've been together 2 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am?" Hearing that, I genuinely burst out laughing. Their little game of hiding their feelings was obvious to everyone. Did they really think I was stupid? Eddie, a person can be as humble as dust, but they must never be as twisted as a maggot. "What do you mean?" "Wishing you happiness." After that, I promptly blocked him. Nights without Eve stretched endlessly. The leftover butter, cookie cutters, and piping tools from her baking sessions still cluttered the house. I spent the entire night packing them up, lugging several large boxes downstairs until sweat drenched my clothes and face. After that, I didn't want to go home. I wandered aimlessly outside the residential compound. Along the base of the outer wall, a row of low, dimly lit stalls stretched out. Their lights illuminated pale faces and the floor littered with cheap flesh-colored stockings and plastic combs. In truth, they were the city's reality. This reminded me of that vast, endless wasteland on the city's outskirts. And the mysterious Tim. His face bore an uncanny resemblance to that person's, yet their essences were worlds apart. In my memory, that person had a pair of clear, fox-like eyes. When he smiled, it was like a spring, possessing a transparency that seemed to see straight through you. Especially when he wore a white shirt, fulfilling every girl's fantasy of the school's white-clad heartthrob. Wherever he went, he was the center of attention, and candid photos of him circulated throughout the school and beyond. Back then, everyone adored him. Boys, girls, everyone, including Eve and everyone beyond Eve. I was absorbed in my studies and only saw him once or twice, but those glimpses left an indelible impression. Even now, after my mother remarried and my stepfather transferred me to a better private high school, the memory remains as vivid as yesterday. He seemed like a beautiful dream etched into my heart, Eve's heart, and the hearts of countless ordinary girls. Lights flickered in every window, while my heart tangled like a knot. I planned to find a place to drink. Just as I sat in the car, something crinkled beneath my seat. It was a plastic cover, a small notebook the size of a palm. Inside lay a driver's license. The owner's portrait mirrored his real self, exquisitely chiseled features, incredibly photogenic. Tim's. I drove to the outskirts of town and pounded on the flimsy door of a shipping container in the cold night air. Pure madness. If not for the open fields all around, neighbors would surely have called the police. With a shrill scraping sound, the door swung open. The man steadied himself with one hand on the frame, bare-chested, his faded gray boxers hanging loosely on his hips. Beneath tousled short hair, a pair of fox-like eyes were moist and hazy. Before he could react angrily, I held up the small blue booklet. "Is this yours?" He clutched the booklet in his palm, his voice hoarse with weariness. "Did you have to bring it in the middle of the night?" "Yes, because I work during the day." I wasn't lying. I did have my own design studio downtown, the kind that could support a small team. He said nothing more, took the booklet, and showed no intention of shutting me out. He just stood there, silently sizing me up. I'd never seen eyes like his before, beautiful and deep, yet intensely aggressive, like a beast lurking in the darkness. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Showing up at a man's door in the middle of the night felt like walking into a trap, an invitation to temptation. And his silence seemed to imply acceptance, almost an invitation itself. After a long, tense pause, I finally spoke. "Do you have a place to drink here?" He did. Passing through a vegetable patch and a few sparse clumps of wild trees, the scattered lights ahead suddenly multiplied. A damp, cold wind carried faint, languid music, and I could vaguely hear fragments of laughter, whispers, and coughs. Unbelievably, behind the vegetable patch stood an astonishing number of shipping containers, large and small, looming like ghostly shadows in the night. Or like a pile of trash abandoned by the city. Following Tim, I weaved through the dimly lit, massive containers for over a kilometer. Ahead, the view suddenly opened up to reveal a structure as tall as a two-story house, made entirely of shipping containers. We walked through walls of stacked wine bottles on either side. Inside, it was indeed a bar, one of those trendy, Instagrammable spots with a distinctly American retro vibe. Behind the makeshift bar, a young girl in a knit beanie was scrolling through her phone. Tim tapped the table, one iced lemonade. She looked up, her eyes lighting up. "Tim." Spotting me beside him, her tone immediately soured. "Who's this?" He didn't answer her, instead turning to me. "What do you have?" "Just a drink." The girl pouted but set aside her phone, mixing me a mojito. She watched us take our drinks and sink into a dimly lit corner. The menu stuck to the table corner. The drink prices shocked me. A highball for only $8? Yeah. Usually taciturn, Tim seemed unusually talkative now. Since it's all shipping containers, rent's cheap, prices are low, and business is decent. Oh. His lips moved slightly, those fox-like eyes fixed on me silently and faintly. It seemed he really wanted to talk to me about something. But I didn't want to. On a night like this, with the lights dancing and the atmosphere hazy, a single woman should be laughing loudly, dancing wildly, twisting and turning in the arms of different men. She certainly shouldn't be sitting quietly in a corner, crying alone. But I couldn't control myself. After all, nearing 30, I'd lost everything overnight. A cold mojito slid down, slicing through my stomach like a knife, quickly turning into fiery liquid that burst from my eyes, streaming freely down my already chilled cheeks. I was drowning in my own sorrow, parched and nearly dehydrated. Another drink, please. You're drunk. He sat across from me now, cuffs rolled back to reveal a sleek forearm. His fingers, with their distinct knuckles, gently slid along the slender stem of the glass with an unhurried sensuality. Don't drink anymore. His tone, like that of a confidant, made me want to laugh. I did laugh, rocking back and forth until exhaustion left me slumped over the table, murmuring faintly. You want to sleep with me, don't you? On the tabletop, those slender fingers tensed. His Adam's apple bobbed nervously. In his constricted pupils, I saw a woman. Her satin hair cascaded over her chest. She wore a moon-white taffeta gown, its straps impossibly thin, as if they might snap at any moment. After a moment of trance-like stillness, he suddenly grabbed my arm, yanking me up from my seat. Dragged along, I stumbled out into the cold night, where the wind howled furiously. The road felt both short and endless. Not far away, a small gray cottage rattled in the wind, its plastic-like creaks making it seem as if it might be swept skyward at any moment. Our bodies pressed tightly together now, and flesh doesn't lie. The taut curve of his form laid bare his urgent response. I simply draped my slender arms around his neck and whispered hoarsely, "You left your driver's license behind on purpose, didn't you? You're drunk." He was changing the subject. His nonchalance infuriated me more than outright aggression. So I hooked my arms around his slender neck, rose on tiptoe, and captured those crimson lips with mine. Mid-kiss, I yanked his collar, dragging him roughly into the room. He couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at?" I hissed. "Things are moving fast, but it's not so bad." Dim light streamed through the window, casting a frosty moonbeam that illuminated his ambiguous profile. My fingers slid open his shirt buttons, my voice smooth and soft. "Come to me, if this is truly what you desire." Turns out, being intimate with the white moonlight I'd yearned for over a decade not only brought physical pleasure but also a massive boost to my ego. It made me feel incredibly happy. Sleeping dreamless until dawn broke. What finally roused me was my phone, buried in a pile of clothes. Seeing the caller ID, I panicked and shut it off instantly, then dressed as quietly as possible. The man behind me still slept, his jet black hair spread softly across the pillow. Knowing full well how despicable I was being, I fled anyway, driving frantically back to my city apartment. Back home, I turned my phone back on to find dozens of missed calls from my mom, each one urgent as if demanding my life. Before I could react, the next call came in, her voice sharp and accusatory from the start. "Did you fight with Eddie?" I poured myself a glass of ice water and forced calmness. "No, we're fine." "Then why did he tell me he didn't know the wedding date when I asked?" "Didn't you two plan it ages ago?" I dodged the question. She'd passed the buck, so I returned it in kind, "I don't know either. I haven't been able to reach him lately." "Why don't you go check on him?" "What would Mom go do there?" "Just say you're going to make him soup." "Didn't you used to send your son-in-law little tokens of love all the time?" My mom paused for a moment, sighed, and hung up. I opened the messaging app and found that white background with red text profile picture. My finger hovered over it for a long while. Just as I was about to tap delete, I suddenly remembered his whisper in my ear last night, saying it was his first time and asking me to be understanding. Humph. This guy probably even forged his name, who knows what's real and what's fake. But I have to admit, that seemingly vulnerable confession still softened my heart. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to delete him. After freshening up, I mustered my energy and headed to the studio, determined to tackle the pile of orders waiting for me. Right now, only throwing myself into work could erase that wicked, bewitching guy from my mind. All afternoon, I worried my colleagues might spot my cracks. I felt that subtle thrill of a child stealing candy, followed by the emptiness after reckless indulgence. Both relieved and terrified. Both regretful and sweet. After a full afternoon of 3D rendering, right when things were heating up, my mom called again. Before that, she'd sent me a few photos. Before I could answer, she unleashed a torrent of abuse. Are you out of your mind? What's wrong? Eve, your closest friend? She's sleeping with Eddie. How could you not know? Her bellowing startled me, my words stumbling out. Well, I guess I'll just wish them a lifetime of happiness. Her voice grew even louder, shaking my eardrums. Are you out of your mind? Handing your husband over like that? Are you even my daughter? There was a reason my mom was so disappointed in me. Back in her youth, she helped her girlfriends catch mistresses. She once tore one's scalp, kicked another's shin bone, and cursed someone into slitting their wrists at midnight. Now approaching 50, she's still sharp as a tack, occasionally practicing her skills on my stepfather. I gave a few half-hearted responses before hanging up. Opening the photos my mom sent, I found them filled with Eve and Eddie's dynamic shots, both shirtless, jumping up and down on beds and couches as my mom chased them around, blurred beyond recognition. Mom sent another voice message, demanding I come over to tear things up with her. I ignored it outright. It wasn't that I didn't want to go. Right now, I feel even more guilty than Eve. Before I knew it, 2 weeks had passed. Tim lay silently in my friends list, like a corpse. If I hadn't come home to find the drain clogged, we might have drifted apart completely. Anyone who's lived in a high-rise knows clogged drains are perfectly normal. So naturally, I needed a strong guide to unclog mine. I quickly opened the chat and typed, "My drain's clogged." Just as I hit send, I realized my tone sounded way too cheerful. I hit recall and rewrote the message, "My drain is clogged." Before I could send it, the small text at the top changed from Tim maintenance to "the other person is typing, now you think to ask me?" Too late. I deleted the line I'd typed, then turned off my phone to stop myself from checking. I even tossed it far away. After that, I sat on the sofa, my butt feeling like it was on fire. Time dragged on like an eternity. After 5 agonizing minutes with no response, I finally couldn't resist and swiped the screen open. Almost instantly, a message arrived from him, just a few simple words. "I'm downstairs." My heart surged like boiling water beneath my throat. My legs suddenly took on a life of their own, propelling me toward the stairwell. It was rush hour. All 3 elevators were packed. I waited a full 10 minutes before one finally descended. Tim stood near the lobby entrance, still in his familiar baggy shorts and old man shirt, flip-flops on his feet, hands in his pockets. His fox-like eyes watched the elevator door quietly. He stood there like a soft, glowing orb. Men and women, young and old, passing by, without exception, would turn to look at him as they walked past. You can imagine how awkward it was for me to steel myself and approach him. He remained silent. But while waiting for the elevator, I noticed his flip-flops were new, and the creases in his old man shirt and shorts were crisp and neat, clearly freshly unwrapped clothes. It was clear he'd done his best. After a moment, the elevator arrived, empty. We stepped in one after the other. As the aluminum doors closed, his faint fox-like eyes silently met mine, speaking volumes without words. I couldn't say who moved first, but the next instant we were locked in a tight embrace. Part bewildered, part intoxicated, like drunkards lost in the depths of wine, we even uttered absurd questions. "Your mouth tastes so sweet." "Yours too." His voice was hoarse and passionate. At that moment, we were as close as we could possibly be. He kept holding me and kissing me until a ding sounded by my ear, slowly bringing us back to reality. The elevator doors opened. 2 elementary school kids, not even reaching my shoulders, peered in before turning away with a pout. Middle-aged folks these days sure have passion. You can say that again. Outside, rain had begun falling without warning. The patter of raindrops pelted the skyscrapers, and the air carried a lingering, damp, suggestive aura, a night made for kissing. To mask any noise that might disturb the neighbors, I turned on the TV the moment I entered. The broadcast about the typhoon's retreat filled the room, yet the air still held a palpable sense of impending storm. Fortunately, tonight Tim is my hiding place. "Why did you sneak away that day?" Are you regretting it? So what if I am? Those fox-like eyes shone like stars in the darkness, his gaze lingering on me. I thought you hated me. I did, a little. Tim seemed resigned as he gently bit my lower lip with his teeth. It was just a simple kiss, yet it felt like drinking the richest, most aromatic wine, just a few sips, and it intoxicated us both. The next day. Before I opened my eyes, the person beside me sat up, whispering softly into my ear. It's dawn. I have to go. Goodbye. Instead of leaving, he cupped my hand over his heart. His dry, scorching palm kneaded my fingers like tender white buds emerging from the soil, fragile yet exquisitely beautiful. Jolted awake, I had no choice but to rise. Morning light flooded the room. Standing in the doorway, yawning incessantly, I politely endured his lingering reluctance to depart. Until his gaze fell behind me, and his smile vanished abruptly. Following his eyes, I saw the drape covering the backdrop wall had slipped away at some point, revealing a massive, floor-to-ceiling, wedding portrait. Seeing this, I quickly grabbed the fallen drape to cover it, scrambling for an excuse. I can explain. He stared at me coldly. The Tim who had been tender moments ago had suddenly changed, radiating a freezing chill. This is my fiancé, yes, I grabbed his hand and shook it, swearing solemnly, but he's been dead for ages. So long I've forgotten what he even looked like. Really? Absolutely true. After triple checking, Tim left peacefully. Over the next month or so, I kept summoning him under various pretexts, a burnt-out light bulb, a shorted outlet, no TV signal. Of course, what he was really fixing was loneliness. Not long after, Eddie and I broke up for good. Though neither set of parents intervened, they tacitly accepted the relationship's end. Eddie's family and my stepfather maintained business ties, preserving appearances for all. Until Eddie secretly called me from a landline, bitterly accusing Eve. That woman's a fraud. What did she deceive you about? She lied about being on her period, then deliberately got pregnant. Isn't that fraud? Me, seriously? Are you kidding me? No, Eddie, are you just being a sore loser? After a moment of silence, his voice turned melancholy. Chris, you're always like this. When you're happy, you call me baby, but when you're upset, it's just Eddie. Hearing this, I felt sick to my stomach. Fine, we're no longer involved. This has nothing to do with me. But now she refuses to terminate it. What should I do? What should you do? Marry her, of course. How could that be possible? Her circumstances? Mine? How could I possibly marry her? His shamelessness stunned me. After a long pause, I finally managed, there's another way. The voice on the other end was both shocked and hopeful. Another way? Tell me quickly. You could go die. After that, I hung up immediately, deleted the number, and blocked him all at once. Maybe it was the guy's disgusting behavior, but even when my mom came over with fish soup that evening, that queasy feeling lingered. I kept feeling like I needed to throw up. To cheer her up, I told her the story like it was a joke. She was sipping her soup and started laughing so hard she choked. But not me. I fucking laughed until I threw up. The kind where I turned my head and vomited all over the floor. Seeing me tearfully covered in vomit, my mother's expression darkened. When did your period end? Last month? No, the month before? Thinking back, I could barely recall when Aunt Flo had last visited. My cycle was already irregular, and after pulling all-nighters at work, it had skipped several months straight. Mom shot me a look that made my skin crawl, then ordered me to stay home while she rushed out. She returned quickly, clutching a medical-grade plastic bag filled with colorful plastic tubes. Go to the bathroom and use all these brands of test strips. Seeing her grave expression, I dared not tempt fate and did as told. The result was predictable, 2 clear lines, strongly positive. The moment my mother saw the test, tears streamed down her face. She couldn't lift her head for a moment, sobbing. I tried to comfort her, but she grabbed my arm and yanked it hard, screaming, "You stupid girl. I told you to use protection, to never get pregnant before marriage. Now look. Eddie's family won't marry us off. What about this child? What are we going to do? You tell me. Her wailing made my skin crawl, and tears started falling from my eyes too. I didn't want this either. I didn't even like him back then. You said listening to you was the right thing. My mother froze upon hearing this. Snapping back to reality, she began slapping herself across the face, each blow delivered with full force until her cheeks were flushed crimson. You were right. I was blind to choose such a playboy for you. I was blind as a bat, my eyesight failing me. She'd been strong her whole life, never once blaming herself. This was the pain and helplessness driving her fury. Seeing her break down, I rushed to stop her. Mom, do I have to get married? Can't I just have a child on my own? Her words sent her into a rage. What nonsense are you spouting? You're a perfectly good girl, you want to be a single mom? Why not? Allowing cold tears to dry on my face, I finally voiced my long-held conviction: I can earn my own money. Just from my studio's dividends alone, I make $5,000 or $60,000 a year. As my fame grows, I'll earn even more. How could I not afford to raise a child? Even if it's a struggle on my own, I can hire a postpartum nurse, a housekeeper, a driver, people to help me raise the child. As long as I keep earning money, none of this will be a problem. My mother was stunned, her eyes bulging wide. What about when people ask about the father? Just say he died. She sprang to her feet and struck me across the face with lightning speed. You ungrateful daughter. You just don't want to get married. No wonder you ignored me when I told you to date and go on blind dates. I hurriedly grabbed tissues and carefully wiped the smudged foundation from her face, my tone conciliatory. You always said having a daughter means the family line ends. This child will take my surname. Our family will stay together forever. Just say yes, okay? No. This isn't just your decision. Rejected outright, I fell silent. After that, my mother gradually calmed down, seemingly accepting this worst-case scenario. She even seemed ready to drag others into it. Oh, and Eddie's family doesn't know about this yet. I'll be damned if I don't see how they plan to handle this. Seeing her pull out her phone to make a call sent a chill down my spine. Once Mrs. Chu set her mind on something, no one could stop her. She'd likely use this to stir up a massive storm within their social circle. If the child were Eddie's, fine, he deserved it. The problem was, I'd never even slept with him. Speaking of Tim, I liked him a little, but not that much. Even if he was the former Brian, our only connection was me helping Eve write a few love letters. My memories of him from back then had almost faded away. And his living situation, income, education level, none of it matched my vision of the perfect father figure. To put it bluntly, even my stepfather, a landlord collecting rent, was more respectable than him. Back then, my mother nearly severed ties with her family to give birth to me. After that, she remarried twice, choosing husbands strictly according to the criteria she set for my father. She sacrificed everything for me, yet never once regretted it. From that day forward, the people I loved most were my mother and the child growing inside me, my own flesh and blood. I would become both father and mother to this child, nurturing and raising her with all my heart. This was the blueprint for my ideal, perfect life. After careful consideration, I decisively chose to abandon Tim, dragging him into the blacklist. Better to cut ties cleanly than drag things out. Meanwhile, with Eve and I both pregnant, the truth could no longer be concealed. Initially, only my stepfather knew. But he let it slip at the mahjong table, and gossip spread like wildfire. Within a month, the entire circle knew Eddie's good-for-nothing son had gotten 2 girls pregnant at the same time. The very next day, Eddie's parents showed up at my door with bird's nest soup. They claimed to come apologize, but their real aim was to reconcile Eddie and me. Ideally, they wanted us married before our bellies showed, burying the scandal. My mother wasn't impressed by Eddie's parents' attentions. My stepfather, however, still had some dignity left. He politely served them tea. Mrs. Yu, who'd always been cool toward me, suddenly grew warm. She took my hand and stroked it gently. Christina, we've given Eddie a thorough scolding. Rest assured, if he ever misbehaves again, you'll be my own daughter. I'll disown that son of mine. I quickly distanced myself. Auntie, I have my own mother. And honestly, I'm not worthy of your Eddie. Let's just leave it at that, okay? With that, I retreated to the corner of the sofa, adopting a look of profound heartbreak. Eddie's parents sighed heavily at the sight, gritting their teeth as they launched into another tirade against him. Their unusual demeanor made it clear Eddie had completely exhausted his credit with them. Not a single word of his excuses seemed to register. He was wearing that green hat whether he liked it or not. What I never expected was that Eve beat Eddie to me, demanding answers the moment she arrived. The baby in your belly is Brian's, right? No, it's someone else's. Pfft. He is Brian. He just changed his name after family troubles. I checked with his hometown folks. So what? What does that have to do with me? He's dirt poor now, living in rags. If you're with him, you're in for a world of misery. Hearing the smugness in her voice, I burst out laughing. Who said the child is his? Eve immediately grew wary. What do you mean? Eddie told me you used marriage as an excuse to sleep with him, making him live like a monk for 2 whole years. You've got it all wrong. I reclined on the sofa, gently caressing my slightly rounded belly. This has nothing to do with whose seed it is. This child belongs only to me. She finally understood. You're going to be a single mom? Isn't that even more pitiful? You don't get it. Only poor women are pitiful. I chuckled. Raising a child alone is just one of my ways to keep my wealth. Besides, if I cry, I'll be doing it in my penthouse downtown. You won't be the one laughing at me. Eve fell silent. Worry about yourself instead. Eddie's not the sharpest tool in the shed, and his parents aren't pushovers. If you dream of marrying into wealth and becoming a lady, you've got a long way to go. Hearing this, she seemed to bristle. What if it's a boy? Then I wish you luck. She seemed to want to say something more, but held her breath and hung up. Days passed, and my belly gradually grew. Though she repeatedly scolded me for being careless, my mother never once suggested I terminate the pregnancy. I knew she was more reluctant than I was. Entering the 4th month, prenatal checkups became more frequent. Going alone was inconvenient, so I asked May, my studio partner, to accompany me. She was swamped overseeing over a dozen construction sites daily, covered in dust and grime. Having to pick me up for hospital visits constantly annoyed her. Seriously, I'm not the baby's dad. Why are you always dragging me along? This child has no father. Aren't you about to marry someone? He's dead. After the checkup, she drove me straight home. As soon as we entered the building, I spotted the child's biological father standing at the hallway entrance, casting a lingering glance my way. Seeing our tense standoff, May wisely slipped away. I pretended not to notice, swiped my fingerprint to unlock the door, and started inside. Suddenly, an arm shot out to block my path. I turned, my tone sharp. What are you doing here? Came to see you. Only now? What about before? I thought you were busy. Brian, still wore that t-shirt and baggy shorts, trailing behind me with submissive eyes. It's been 3 months. I was afraid you'd forgotten me. Hearing this, a flicker of emotion stirred within me, but I steeled myself to reject him. I did forget. There was never any real feeling between us. Isn't it better to end things sooner rather than later? He didn't answer. His gaze dropped, settling on my rounded belly. I tensed instantly, bristling like a mother cat. What are you looking at? I'm just a little heavier. He looked at me as if I were an idiot. With the truth exposed, I felt a strange relief wash over me. My tone turned defiant, like a streetwise kid. Don't worry, I don't need any child support. I won't bother you with this kid. All you need to do is disappear completely. Before I could finish, he cut me off. No, I want this child too. How ridiculous. What right did he have to claim it? The humiliation Eve had mocked me with days ago surged back, squeezing venomous bitterness from my sealed-off sensitivity. I spat out a taunt without thinking. Look at the mess you're in. What could you possibly give me? What could you give this child? Mr. Bryan, self-awareness is a virtue. As if seeing me for the first time, his faintly earnest gaze cooled, dark waves churning in his eyes. Is that why you blocked me? Why else? I straightened my back, forcing myself to sound sharper, hoping to deter this man who didn't know his place. But inside, I prayed bitterly. Leave. Leave this place. Pretend none of this ever happened. Yet he silently studied me for a long moment, his tone growing gentler instead. Then, what would make you believe me? True, I had no proof that Tim, who appeared after Eddie, was also scum. Seeing how determined he was to claim this child, I knew he wouldn't give up easily. Morally and legally, he was the child's biological father, an undeniable truth. To prevent him from extorting us, I called my mother, claiming tight project deadlines meant I'd be living at the office. Then, using the excuse that my rent was due and I couldn't afford to renew, I packed my bags and moved into Tim's shabby little place. I told him the downtown apartment was rented, and he actually believed me. Convinced he couldn't endure a high-maintenance pregnant woman long-term, I hypocritically offered him a chance, planning to use 6 months to make him give up. The very first night I moved in, I started nitpicking his flaws. Like pointing at his baggy boxers and snarkily demanding, "Those aren't the same pair you wore yesterday, are they?" No. To prove his point, he led me to the doorway and pointed to the pants hanging on the clothesline not far away. They might look similar, but there are differences. Like, this one is dark gray, that one is light gray, and the farthest one is gunmetal gray. After the defeat, my sarcastic remarks fell flat, like punching cotton with no rebound. After nightfall, we squeezed onto the small bed in the corner to sleep. Though summer had just begun, the evening breeze carried insect chirps. Despite the room not being overly warm, I lay drenched in sweat, tossing and turning for ages, unable to sleep. It's so itchy. This is infuriating. Bryan had just finished showering next door and came over to check. What's wrong? Mosquitoes? You'd know if there were mosquitoes, wouldn't you? Frustrated and irritable, I snapped at him. He seemed puzzled but silently went to the window to inspect the screen. The screen's old. There's a tear in it. What should we do? It's too late now. You go to sleep. I'll buy a new one tomorrow. With all these mosquitoes, how am I supposed to sleep? Faced with my wildly exaggerated negative emotions, he didn't argue. He pulled a large plastic bag from under the bed, opened it to reveal a big bamboo hand fan, then leaned against the headboard and began gently waving it toward me. Go to sleep. I'll shoo the mosquitoes away for you. The bed was small, forcing me to sleep pressed against him. To prevent falling off the edge, my arm naturally wrapped around his waist. As the fan swayed gently, cool breezes seeped into my pores. A faint, woody scent drifted from his body. For some reason, the restlessness in my heart instantly faded, replaced by a deep wave of drowsiness. As it turned out, I didn't just fall asleep. I slept like a log until dawn. The little one inside me kept wriggling, like a playful fish swimming in water. Pregnancy had made me not only sleepy but also ravenously hungry. Unable to see clearly and feeling irritable, I immediately called Bryan. Where'd you go? The line crackled with machine noise and distant voices, his words barely audible. Out. But you're in the middle of nowhere. What am I supposed to eat for lunch? Rarely in the right, I pressed my advantage without tact. It would be best if this argument drove him away, making him abandon this child. True to my hopes, he hung up the phone. Amidst my delight, a wave of bitterness washed over me. Before the emotion could fully surface, a message arrived on my phone. Busy now. Wait for me to come back and cook. Before noon, he indeed rushed back. He headed straight for the kitchen upon entering, his cooking skills still sharp. In under an hour, he whipped up pasta and braised beef. He barely took a bite himself before rushing off again. Last night, he'd swatted mosquitoes for me, barely sleeping. Today, he'd been working outside since dawn, yet still returned at noon to cook, without a single complaint. It made me question myself constantly. Had I gone too far? That night, he didn't return until after dark, carrying new window screens. Dusty and weary, faint dark circles under his eyes, he rushed straight to the windowsill to work, barely pausing to speak. "Why so late today?" I stood behind him, my voice awkward. "Yeah, this model is hard to find. Had to get someone to make them on site." After that, he silently fixed the window. I thought he was angry with me, but when he leaned against the headboard and fell asleep, I realized. He wasn't angry with me. He was just exhausted. To better portray the image of a city gold digger living off others, I assigned all the studio's recent orders to May, leaving her overwhelmed and banging her head against the wall. To solidify this persona, I ended up losing nearly $300,000, which only made me dislike Brian even more. Worth mentioning, he'd been leaving early and returning late these past few days. When I asked what he was up to, he didn't hide it. I partnered with someone in the suburbs and just took over a storefront. Still fixing cars? Pretty much. Humph, I knew it. What else could this guy possibly do? So the next day, while he was out, I hailed a cab and secretly went to check up on him. When I arrived, I have to admit, the location was prime. Wide, open doors on both sides, a very eye-catching sign. Two spry young greeters stood at the entrance. Seeing me walk and clutching my stomach, one offered water while the other took my bag. A car repair shop had somehow managed to pull off VIP treatment. "Where's Brian?" "Who might you be referring to?" "Oh, I meant Tim." The attendant eyed me up and down before realizing with a laugh, "Oh, you must be the boss's wife." The other guy chimed in with a sheepish grin, "The boss is out restocking." "Why don't you take a seat inside?" Honestly, I hadn't planned to stay, but after being called boss lady repeatedly, I felt a bit flattered and ended up sitting behind the counter, scrolling through my phone. Not long after, a middle-aged woman walked in. "How much do you charge to change a car's color?" "It depends on the model, ma'am. Some start at $8,800, others go up to $28,000. "That expensive?" The woman started to leave, but a tall figure stepped up outside the door. "It's not expensive. We source our own materials and do the work ourselves, so it's definitely below market price." The woman suddenly fell silent. After a long pause, she stammered, Is there another price?" "We can do the $8,800 option for you at $8,000. That's the absolute lowest we can go." "Oh, I'm not looking for a bargain. I want quality work. The best quality is $88,000. "Then I'll take the $88,000 one. $88,000 for a car cover? Is she out of her mind?" I craned my neck from behind the counter to watch as Brian led the woman inside. She wore a composed expression, but I could tell she was secretly gazing up at him from behind, her lips trembling with excitement. "Is it really worth it? I mean, is it really worth it?" The moment the customer left, I appeared behind him and blurted out, "Business is booming, huh?" He turned and saw me, looking surprised. "What are you doing here? How else would I know you're raking it in?" He didn't catch my sarcasm, just looking a bit sheepish. "It's okay. There's a huge used car lot nearby specializing in luxury vehicles, so many clients come here to change their car covers," I scoffed. "Looks to me like she wasn't after the car cover, she was after you." Brian's porcelain cheeks flushed crimson at my words. Seemingly at a loss for a reply, he abruptly turned his face away. "I already have you." "Why?" Why, at nearly 30, did my heart race at such a plain, unadorned confession? After witnessing so many affairs, miscarriages, and mistresses, my heart had grown as hard as a boulder. Yet this time, my cheeks burned red as if I'd suddenly caught a fever. My mind turned to mush. After sitting behind the counter until dusk, Brian pulled up in his beat-up pickup, its bed piled high with goods. He offered to drive me home, but I refused. With no other option, he took me out for a simple meal. On the way back, we stopped at the market, where he bought a large bag of fish. We worked until midnight. By the time he closed up, I was so sleepy I could barely keep my eyes open. At home, I collapsed onto my pillow and fell instantly asleep, while he carried the fish outside, busy with something. The next morning, a rich, thick aroma filled the house and yard. Following the scent to the hallway, I spotted an antique coal stove, the kind long discontinued, with a large stainless steel pot simmering atop it, its charcoal embers still glowing red below. Just as I reached to lift the lid, several children came running from nearby, staring at me with wide, hungry eyes. I was about to carry the pot away when my phone buzzed with a message. "Awake yet?" After replying, several more messages came in immediately. "Since you're awake, come eat. I made fish soup for you. Oh, and if any kids ask for fish, just give them some. Their parents all live around here." Got it. Though I desperately wanted to hog the whole pot myself, since they'd asked, I lifted the lid. I scooped out chunks of fish into plastic bags and handed them to those tiny, colorless hands. These children seemed accustomed to begging for food. They grabbed the bags and ran off without even saying thank you. It broke my heart. Then, with a heavy heart, I ate 3 large bowls of fish soup, tears welling up. Days slipped by quietly, one after another. One day, as I lay resting under the eaves, an unexpected visitor arrived. "Look how plump you've gotten, you resemble a puffer fish." "How can you say that?" Comparing my broad shoulders and rounded belly to her sallow, gaunt, and pale frame, as if a breeze could carry her away, I examined her from head to toe. My gaze settled on her flat abdomen, and I understood. "Where are you headed?" "Back to my hometown." Eve gave a bitter smile. "I don't have a rich dad like yours, nor a reliable boyfriend. I'll just go home and marry someone with similar circumstances." She'd always been proud, so this acceptance was surprising. I was puzzled. "What about Eddie? You're just letting him go like that?" "His parents gave me $1 million as compensation." Oh. I'd been out of the loop for so long that even such explosive news reached me last. Hearing this, I felt a pang of regret. Seeing my silence, she suddenly raised her voice, her expression agitated. "Christina, do you think I was after that million?" "I never said that." Caught off guard by my cold retort, she stared blankly at my belly, a wistful look spreading across her face. If only I could be the one by his side, but alas, this he clearly wasn't Eddie. I chuckled. "So for love, you'd gladly live in rags?" "Yes." "I believe you mean it." I stretched my limbs, studying her flushed cheeks with a satisfied expression. "But you only love his appearance. This feeling won't stand up to scrutiny." Eve shot back, "And you're not?" Before I could answer, a screech of brakes echoed nearby. A beat-up pickup truck plowed through the field, kicking up a cloud of dust. Brian leaped from the cab, nimbly scrambled onto the rear cargo rack, and began tossing down the goods one by one. His sweat-soaked white t-shirt clung to his body. In the sunlight, the semi-transparent fabric revealed the slightly darker skin beneath, wild and masculine. Seeing Eve stare intently, I felt a twinge of discomfort. "Look how drooling you are." "What did you say?" "Nothing." After unloading everything, the man lifted the hem of his t-shirt to wipe sweat from his face, revealing a hint of his toned abdomen as he walked toward us. "Is that your friend?" "No, just someone asking for directions." Eve watched his figure disappear through the doorway, her expression wistful. "I've liked him for over a decade, and he doesn't even remember me." I snorted coldly at her words. "I've been your friend for over a decade." "Did you ever see me?" She didn't respond. From the moment she arrived until she left, not a single apology was uttered. And just like that, this old friend who had accompanied me through my entire adolescence faded permanently from my life. Because Eve once told me I was as fat as a pufferfish, I'd harbored resentment ever since. Even at my 7th-month prenatal checkup, I specifically asked the doctor about it. The result was predictable. The fetus was a full size larger than expected for its gestational age. The doctor frowned deeply at the ultrasound report. What do you usually eat? Fish, shrimp, beef, and vegetables. Fearing the doctor might miss a detail, the man beside me quickly added, not just that, also durian, avocado, and beef marrow. My gaze fixed heavily on Brian, but he remained unmoved, instead asserting with righteous indignation, and I need meat at every meal. If I skip one, I get terrible heartburn. Doctor, is this normal? The doctor shot me a stern glare. Whether it's normal or not, you can't eat like this. What if you end up with a giant baby? From now on, you can only eat tomatoes and cucumbers. No high-calorie fruits. Even lean meat must be moderated. I could only nod meekly in agreement. Outside the hospital, I gave him a cold shoulder, my nose not quite a nose, my eyes not quite eyes. What's wrong? Do you think I eat too much? Should I go back to my mom's place? He was engrossed in our first ultrasound report, not even looking up. It's too big. I'm worried you won't be able to deliver it safely. My heart instantly felt warm. This man, he's got something special. That night, I finished a plate of sliced cucumbers and corn porridge. Just as I reached for another bowl, Brian stopped me. No more. The doctor told me to supervise your diet. Not even one more bowl? No, he refused outright, then took the bowl away. Seeing me sulking in bed, he softened his voice, don't be upset. How about I read you some poetry? It'll be good prenatal education for the baby. I don't want any. He rummaged through the cabinet beside us for a while, pulling out a yellowed transparent folder. Inside seemed to be a stack of pink paper. The moment I saw that paper, I froze. In my memory, I'd helped Eve write several love letters using paper of this exact color. But back then, so many girls were chasing after him, why would he have singled me out? Years later, the Hello Kitty printed paper had grown stiff and brittle, rustling softly in my hands. He sat on the bedside, unfolded one sheet, and seemed ready to read it aloud with earnest intent. Could you please not read it? I don't want to hear it. No, this is prenatal education. He gently yet firmly refused me, then cleared his throat and began reading in that soft, melodious voice. I promise to write you letters, using blue ink, petals for paper, pothose for wrapping, and nightingales to deliver them, help. Just hearing the opening lines made me cringe to death. Brian stood beside me, smiling at my utterly miserable expression, and actually raised his voice, reading with perfect cadence. If nightingales cannot deliver, I'll place it in a drifting bottle. Spring and autumn may pass, seasons may change, but when you find it downstream, your smile will be my greatest gift. By the time he finished the entire poem, I collapsed onto the bed, overwhelmed by a single thought. Some people live. She was already dead. Is it beautiful? Isn't it wonderfully written? Yes. Then let me read you another one. The poet was incredibly talented, her handwritten newsletters were all the rage across campus back then. Please don't, Brian didn't wait for my protest, picking up another sheet of paper and pouring his heart into the next recitation. Leaping over cliffs to kiss a flower, I was mortified. I understood then, Brian had recognized me from the start. This must be his revenge. Revenge for all those sappy letters I used to write that disgusted him. After forcing me to listen to every single love letter, those once carefully preserved sheets were carelessly shoved into a drawer. Now, tucked inside that precious clear plastic sleeve was the fetal ultrasound report, something he checked every single day after work. To welcome this child, he even shipped a batch of raw pine wood from who knows where and personally built a sturdy crib. From splitting the logs, sanding the wood, to the final assembly, he did everything himself, taking a full month. Once that beautiful, solid little bed was finished, it showed no signs of being handmade. Not a single sharp edge remained, it was of a quality that could have been sold in a store. I circled the little bed, marveling, do you have another name? He sat resting by the table, head bowed as he picked a splinter from his hand. What name? Fairy Godmother. Because of this little bed, crafted with so much care, I admit my opinion of him had shifted. I even noticed a detail. It was already chilly outside, yet he still wore slippers on his feet. First Eddie, then Brian. My mindset when shopping for these two men was completely different. Buying for Eddie was effortless, just browse online, grab whatever was trending, the less practical the better to match his status. He'd be thrilled and might even reciprocate with a bag or watch or something. Buying for Brian was different. I scoured online stores for days, finally settling on a pair of soft-soled Asics in a deliberately chosen, stain-resistant gray. When the shoes arrived, I deliberately discarded the fancy outer packaging, presenting him with just the bare shoes. Found a pair on sale. Want to try them on? He was studying the baby's ultrasound, a faint, enigmatic smile on his lips. Surprised, he asked, "For me?" To avoid any misunderstanding about my intentions, I forced myself to add, "Just stumbled upon them while browsing. Needed to hit the discount threshold. Don't read too much into it." "Thanks." He casually took the shoes and set them aside, returning his attention to the ultrasound. His demeanor remained as indifferent as ever, showing no sign of gratitude. Look, he must want to see it 800 times a day. I felt a pang of unease. Glancing down at my belly, darkened by pregnancy hormones, made that feeling even worse. Look at me, my waist is almost twice as big, it'll be fine after you give birth. And the stretch marks, the linea nigra, my skin's darkened too, perhaps sensing my unease, he set down the stiff plastic sheet and stared intently at my lifted belly. It's fine. His complete indifference made me feel even more stifled, my voice shifting subtly. So what? Do you think I'm being unreasonable? No, you only have eyes for her, not me, right? Noticing my expression sour, Brian slid an arm around me. His sharp features drew near, his cool nose gently tracing my shoulder. She's my little treasure. You're my big treasure. You're both my treasures. I should have scolded him for his sweet talk, but when I met those calm, serene eyes, I felt an involuntary sense of falling. I couldn't help but plunge into the deep valley of his gaze, along with the fireworks filling the sky. He didn't notice the change in my expression and carefully reached out a hand to touch my belly. It has gotten a bit darker. But the moment his palm touched it, the little one inside kicked him, then began wriggling wildly, desperately demanding attention. Huh? This child usually hardly moves. At the hospital, we have to beg and plead to get any fetal movements detected. Yet the moment her own father touches her, she gets this excited? A pang of unease washed over me. Seems like she really likes you. Really? Brian looked flattered, pressing his whole ear against my belly. But the mischievous little one went quiet again. All that listening for nothing. After that, he gazed tenderly at my dark belly. How about we give her a name? What name? Let's call her Amber. Hearing his gentle tone and earnest manner, tears suddenly fell from my eyes. He looked up at me, suddenly tense. What's wrong? Nothing. Then why are you crying? He cupped my face, carefully pressing his lips to mine, trying to pry open my tightly closed, shrinking shell. But I clamped my lips shut, as if doing so could seal my heart forever, shielding it from hurt. The man before me was both the devil and the God who lured me into love. I didn't know if I could trust him, but I knew I couldn't selfishly strip him of his right. A father's right to pour all his love into his child. As August arrived, my belly grew larger, earning me repeated scoldings from the doctor. He sternly ordered me to increase my activity and control my diet. My once slender frame swelled rapidly, and I dreaded looking in the mirror. Ha! It wouldn't even fit. That day, just as dinner time rolled around, Brian asked me to go for a walk with him. But my belly felt heavy, and I had no desire to move. He started with gentle persuasion, then escalated to outright threats and bribes. Come collect payments with me. Everything we collect is yours. What money? He didn't answer, just shoved a plastic bag into my hand and led me deeper into the vegetable garden. We crossed several narrow paths. Ahead, low shipping containers grew more numerous, clotheslines strung everywhere, gray garments fluttering desolately in the wind. Why so many containers? He squeezed my hand. Keep your voice down. People live here. Before he finished speaking, several filthy children darted out from waist-high weeds, nearly all bare-bottomed, long strings of snot trailing from their noses. They whistled a few times and vanished again. Further ahead, small tables were set up between two rows of containers. A group of plainly dressed people sat around them, seemingly eating. At a glance, there were quite a few of them. Brian didn't approach. Instead, he nudged me forward, check if there's meat in their bowls. If there is, collect it. If not, don't. We collect every 3 months. All the money goes to you. Me? He gave me an encouraging nod, turned, and walked back, leaving me standing there utterly bewildered. Before I could react, someone in the group spotted me. They swarmed forward, greeting me warmly. "Madam's here? You're due in less than 2 months, right?" Amidst the flattery of repeated Madam S, I gradually lost myself. The problem was, they weren't just making small talk. They started shoving money into my hands, 10, 50, 100. Some slunk away mid-motion, clearly not intending to pay. Even so, within 15 minutes, my plastic bag was stuffed full. After that, I walked through every container in the cluster. By conservative estimates, I collected over 10,000. Now I finally understood why he'd handed me that bag. When I returned to the shack with the bulging bag, an unexpected figure stood at the doorway, glaring at me with one finger pointed at Brian. "Did this brat swindle you?" I never imagined my own mother would track me down so quickly. My heart sank. I hastily held the plastic bag in front of Brian. "Mom, what are you doing here? Did you think I'd just stand by and watch you starve to death in this shack?" "I'm not starving. Look at me, plump and healthy, right? Shut your mouth." As she yelled, my mom's eyes reddened. She grabbed my arm, squeezing hard while tears fell in big drops. "I worked 3 jobs to pay for your college education, so you could run off with some man of dubious background? I married that balding old man for your sake, so you could carry his bastard child and give birth in this godforsaken shack?" I couldn't bear to see her cry. When she cried, I couldn't hold back my own tears. The moment Brian saw me cry, he reached out to grab my hand but pulled back. He stood silently beneath the doorway. My mother, who'd been about to hit me, glanced at my belly and redirected her blow toward his handsome face. "How dare you deceive my daughter? I'll beat you, you rotten liar." I rushed forward to stand between them, but instead of stopping the fight, I was accidentally pulled along and plopped down on the doorstep. In the blink of an eye, I felt a tightening in my belly, followed by a warm surge between my legs. Before I could cry out, my mother had already lunged at Brian, yanking his hair and gouging at his eyes. "Stop fighting!" I couldn't scream. My body slowly collapsed onto the empty ground by the doorway, my mouth still emitting feeble moans. "Stop fighting." 10 minutes later, Brian helped me into his beat-up pickup truck, where my dazed mother sat in the back. The vehicle sped along the narrow road, its motion growing increasingly jarring. I cradled my stomach and lifted my legs, calmly directing him. "Slow down. It's too bumpy." "Okay." "Did you bring the hospital bag?" "Yes." "We didn't buy formula. Once we get to the hospital, go to the nearby maternity store and grab a small can to have on hand." "Got it." "Got cash?" Before he could answer, I weighed the plastic bag in my hand and tossed it to my dazed mother. "Count it." "How much is in there total?" My mom actually counted it 3 times. 12,000. "All right, that's enough." At the hospital, they discovered my water had already broken. The doctor immediately took me for a magnesium sulfate drip. My mother clung to the doctor, sobbing, "Doctor, is everything okay? Our baby isn't full term yet." The doctor didn't even lift an eyelid. "It's not full term. It's only the middle of August. This counts as a premature birth." Hearing this, my mother cried even harder. "What can we do?" "Magnesium sulfate will try to hold the pregnancy. We'll see how many days we can buy. If it's truly impossible, we'll terminate it." How can you terminate it, doctor? This is a living child. Seeing my mom about to erupt, I quickly intervened. It's not what you think. It means if we can't hold it, we'll deliver right away. 8.5 months isn't that small. The doctor nodded in agreement with my words. As it turned out, we were still too naive. A few days later, because Amber was in a breech position after a day and night of labor, not only could I not deliver her, but I also lost all my amniotic fluid. The doctor rushed me straight to the operating room for a C-section. When she was delivered, the baby was purple-black all over. Because she was premature, she weighed just over 4 pounds. Her loud cry even startled the nurse bathing her. Though she'd been pulled from my belly, my only impression of her was that severed, jet-black umbilical cord. The nurse briefly revealed her gender before whisking her off to the incubator for her grand entrance. This left my mother, Brian, and my stepfather, who'd rushed to the hospital upon hearing the news, all waiting outside the operating room, disappointed. As the anesthesia wore off, the searing pain at my incision forced me awake. 2 men, one older, one younger, stood before me, both staring intently. They wore identical old-fashioned shirts and loose pants. Without looking down, I knew they shared matching flip-flops. I felt a wave of confusion. "Dad, why are you here?" My stepfather, who usually looked down on everyone, seemed quite taken with Brian this time. He even pulled my mom aside, insisting that the guy in flip-flops couldn't be wrong. My mom ignored him, still looking like she'd lost her mind. The whole family waited anxiously for a week until Amber finally emerged from the delivery room. Though premature, dark, and thin, her small face and long-slit eyes clearly marked her as a budding beauty. When she woke, a pair of indifferent fox eyes froze my smile midair. This child had copied Brian's facial features down to the last detail. It wasn't just that she was his biological daughter, she was his spitting image. Her old mother only got a consolation prize. After that, another fierce argument erupted over where to live. My stepfather insisted that a wife should follow her husband wherever he goes. Since the child was Brian's, she should live in his shabby little apartment. My mother vehemently opposed this, insisting the child should bear my surname and be raised with my parents. After all, why let the family fortune flow to outsiders? Ultimately, I settled the matter by bringing the baby back to my downtown penthouse. Since the infant was too young for direct breastfeeding, Amber pumped milk into bottles. Brian hadn't worked at the shop these past few days, and now the two of them sat side by side on the bed, one feeding, one pumping, an unexpectedly harmonious sight. He stared unblinkingly at Amber's wriggling little mouth, a smile creeping onto his lips. "I love watching her feed." "Why?" "It's like seeing her grow up." I scoffed. "She'll end up looking just like you, not a trace of me." "She looks like you too," he said, nodding his chin. "Look at that aloof little face, so proud. Back in school, your handwriting looked familiar. I almost asked you about it, but you seemed to hate me." I cleared my throat but said nothing. Back then, Eve liked him. As her best friend, I had to avoid any appearance of impropriety. When I saw him, I'd walk past without even glancing his way. Isn't that the self-discipline of a good girlfriend? But your expression when you disliked me was actually kind of amusing. He seemed to recall something, suddenly lowering his head with a smile. That smile made me feel faint, like being struck by a comet, leaving me utterly flustered. When we met again, we'd become a couple clinging to life in the cracks of this world. Yet my careless passing by had apparently cast a deep shadow across his life. As night fell, we faced a new challenge. After returning home, Amber hadn't slept a wink. The nanny we hired told us not to worry, explaining that the child felt insecure and simply wanted to be held to sleep. She said once Amber got used to it, she'd be easy to care for. Hearing this, my mother went to sleep early in the next room. I climbed into bed too, but by midnight, the baby was crying incessantly, showing no signs of settling down. Her cries made my incision hurt worse, and suddenly, grief overwhelmed me. So in that tiny pink room, I wailed, the baby wailed, and Brian, at his wit's end, could only hold Amber close to soothe her. The little rascal was tricky, she'd fall asleep in his arms but cry the moment he put her down, as if needles were growing on her back. "You sleep." I'll hold her for a bit. He tucked the blanket around me, wrapped the baby in his shirt, and began pacing the room. I stammered. The nanny said not to hold her. If I hold her today, she'll want it every day. But I looked it up online. Premature babies lack security. What they need most is kangaroo care. It's best to hold them until they don't need it anymore. What if she always needs it? Then we'll always hold her. I was speechless, watching him pace the room with the baby. Later, my eyelids grew heavy. To avoid disturbing my sleep, he carried the baby out into the hallway to rock her. Long afterward, I still remember the pink light seeping through the door crack that night, his elongated shadow pacing the hallway, footsteps so soft they were barely audible. This became our daily routine. By day, my mother held her in her arms. By night, he held her in his arms. Amber finally began sleeping and started gaining weight. Within days, the dark circles under Brian's eyes deepened, and he looked increasingly haggard. Late one night, with my mother snoring loudly in the next room, I took the baby from his arms and insisted he sleep too. Just sleep beside me. I shifted over, making room for him. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching me, his tone cautious. Will it bother you? Just sleep. Brian didn't argue. Perhaps he was simply too exhausted. He lay down and within 5 minutes, soft snores escaped him. His tall frame curled up at the edge of the bed, like a child who'd suffered every injustice. Whose son was this? Whose husband? Whose father? Suppressing the turmoil in my heart, I cradled Amber and rocked her gently. In the pitch-black night, her clear little eyes shone brightly in the darkness, radiating a faint, familiar calm. Shoo, let's not disturb Daddy's sleep. She gazed silently at me, her small lips suddenly curving into a smile. A pang of sadness struck me. You like Daddy, don't you? Compared to Mommy and Grandma, Daddy really is better, isn't he? Mommy needs to say sorry to you. Truly, I'm sorry. After Amber got through her weakest adjustment period, everyone else lost weight except Amber, who gained up to 6.5 pounds. Brian especially, in just a few weeks, his handsome face had grown noticeably thinner. My mother seemed slightly kinder toward him, though she still treated him like an outsider. My stepfather thought her words were too harsh, and an unprecedented argument erupted between them. I tried to intervene but pulled at my wound, collapsing onto the sofa and gasping for breath. Brian held Amber one last time, then placed the sleeping child in my arms. I'm leaving. Where are you going? He didn't answer, only gave a faint smile. I instantly understood. That smile was the last shred of dignity he retained, his final farewell to me. For some reason, fear seized my heart like a vice, as if we stood on the edge of a cliff where two people severed ties forever. No. What about Amber? Even knowing how despicable it was to use the child as an excuse, I blurted it out. A complete and utter dump and run, a trashy woman who only repents after losing what she had. He shook his head with self-mockery. Family is what truly matters. Comfort your mother well. It's not worth upsetting yourself over a stranger like me. After I leave, if no one's there to hold Amber, just let her sleep alone. She'll get used to it eventually. And thank you for giving birth to her. He squeezed the child's tiny hand, cast one last lingering glance, then slipped away quietly amid the deafening clamor. I wanted to hold him back, but no reason came to mind. After nearly 30 years of life, I suddenly found myself trapped between a rock and a hard place. Sticking my neck out meant certain death, and pulling back meant certain death too. Before my eyes, new and old shadows seemed to overlap, telling me this was the final outcome. And I, burdened with sin, had become the instigator of all this tragedy. In the void, I faintly heard Eve's parting prophecy echoing once more. With such a hard heart, you'll never find happiness. Truthfully, it wasn't the child who couldn't bear to part with him. After that, Amber wouldn't sleep, and neither could I. Tossing and turning, I always sensed a faint scent of pine in the air before me. Even the sight of slippers on the floor would suddenly make me burst into tears. Seeing us both, big and small, so listless, my mother scolded me for being useless. She said it was bad enough I'd run off to bear a child for some bachelor, but now I'd gotten myself tangled up in an inseparable mess, a complete disgrace to her. Didn't I raise you all by myself? But he's different. How is he different? He only deceived you because he saw your potential. If you're truly being foolish, you'll suffer for it later. I'm not afraid of hardship. Hearing this, my mother stepped forward and twisted my ear. Do you have any sense at all? If he truly wanted a child, why didn't he take Amber with him? Why leave this burden for you? Can't you think this through properly? Yeah, why? I sat there, lost in thought for a long time, until the baby suddenly burst into tears. I snapped out of it, but she wouldn't nurse or sleep, just cried. Seeing me gather things while holding her, my mom blocked the doorway, wary. Where are you going? To find him. If you die out there, don't come back. I couldn't explain much to her. I could only convey my apologies through my eyes. Holding the baby, I hurried away under the starry night sky. Amber was quiet in her infant car seat behind me. Having not driven for over half a year, I kept taking wrong turns. After hours of winding through unfamiliar roads, several familiar, shadowy buildings finally appeared by the roadside. The vast vegetable garden felt damp and heavy in the night air, more like a spooky haunted house. I stumbled forward, carrying the baby. The child, who had been quiet moments before, suddenly reached out a tiny hand toward a certain direction and burst into tearful sobs. Looking up, I saw a figure standing at the doorway of the small cottage, like a sliver of moonlight fallen from the clouds. Pure and lonely. The wind is cold. What? I carried the child toward him, and he strode toward me. When we were finally close enough, I heard his resigned sigh. The wind is cold. Why come out at this hour? I handed the wailing child into his arms, my tone deliberately light. It's not the wind that's cold, it's the loneliness. He said nothing, holding her tightly before turning toward the cottage. My warmth met his chill, leaving me uncertain and anxious, so I followed his footsteps closely. Look, I know you care for her, and she can't be without you. And? Inside, he sat on the bedside, cradling Amber on his lap. Under the harsh light bulb, his expression was a translucent blank. The baby had stopped crying, her big, tear-soaked eyes blinking as she shifted her gaze between us. Anticipating rejection, my smile felt awkward. You two should be together. Forcing you apart is cruel, don't you think? I played the emotional card using the child, but Brian showed no reaction, seemingly unmoved. At a loss, I lowered my head and confessed, all right, these are all excuses. I just hope that when you love her, you could love me a little too. Hearing this, his eyes flickered with an unmistakable disappointment, and me? What's in it for me? In return, I can love you so much. Before I finished, he casually cradled the child in one arm while his other hand, steady as steel, gripped my wrist. The next second, I felt weightless as a feather, swept into his embrace and pinned against him. It had been so long since I'd shared such a passionate kiss with anyone, I'd nearly forgotten the benefits of hormones colliding. I could only gasp for air like a fish out of water, yet all that escaped my lips was a sticky, tingling warmth. If nerves were strings, he'd already plucked them into a frenzied melody. After the hurried display of affection ended, the man pressed his forehead against the hollow of my shoulder, his voice trembling. I thought you didn't want me. Not that I didn't want you, I was afraid. I cupped his stubbly face, tenderly brushing back the stray strands from his forehead. His thin eyelids fluttered violently, a fragile sensuality radiating from him. Because I'm a failure, someone incapable of mustering courage. Please forgive my weakness. Before I could finish, he drew near again. Our lips met, urgent and insistent, grinding together. At last, I could lean against the man I'd longed for day and night, breathing in his woody, quiet scent, faint yet unforgettable. Amber lay on the bed, seeming drowsy. Watching her, I murmured to myself, I never imagined, after nearly 30 years of life, I'd end up eloping with someone. My mother is furious. Brian gazed intently at the child, then declared with sudden resolve, we will have a house. Surprised, I asked, what do you mean? When it was just me, it didn't matter. But now, with her and you here, the conditions are too poor. I can't blame your mother for objecting. He rested his chin on top of my head, his tone calm yet unwavering. I'll work hard. I'll work hard to give you both a better life. I felt like I'd turned into a love-struck fool. Just hearing him speak made me melt like warm cheese, even going so far as to offer without hesitation, "It's okay, I'll give you money." He smiled indifferently at my words. "It's my responsibility to put your mother's mind at ease." Late that night, the room was freezing, so we had to put Amber in the middle to sleep. I drifted off quickly, while Brian squeezed onto the very edge of the small bed, watching us silently. I didn't know that for him, this night would be another sleepless one. A few days later, my mom called me home. At first, I tried to dodge the issue, beating around the bush, but she scolded me harshly, lecturing me that if I truly wanted to solve problems, I couldn't run away from them. Either we talked it out properly, or there was no talking at all. I thought it over and realized she was right. Just as I brought the child home, my mother gave me a dark look and nodded toward the study. "He's here to propose." Who? Who came? I tiptoed over and pressed my ear against the slightly ajar door. Inside, a figure stood in a tailored suit, broad shoulders, hair combed immaculately, even the sideburns neatly trimmed. Across from him sat my stepfather, equally stern. "I can help you lease the land assets your father left behind, but the exact returns are unclear. However, I strongly suggest selling outright. Rebuilding your assets afterward will be far easier, and her mother won't oppose you too anymore." No, I'd rather leave it to Amber. That voice, it was definitely Brian's. But why was he wearing a suit and tie? And why did he seem so familiar with my stepfather? Soon, the conversation inside seemed to wind down. The man opened the door, spotted me lurking outside, and came over to touch my cheek. "I'll go talk to your aunt." I froze in place, stunned for a long moment by the sudden shift in his appearance. My stepfather stood by the window smoking, his tone tinged with resignation. To ensure his marriage to you went smoothly, he entrusted me to liquidate his parents' estate. What estate? Over 100 high-cube containers and dozens of high-value ventilated containers under his name. Before this, he refused to sell them, instead leasing them out at rock-bottom rates that barely covered depreciation costs. I couldn't grasp how any of this related to his parents. Seeming to sense my confusion, my stepfather patiently continued, "I knew his parents long ago. They were in the construction business. They both died in an accident. After relatives divided the estate, he only got that batch of depreciated containers and 15,000 square meters of industrial land on the outskirts. That you don't look down on him, that's your good fortune." Back in the living room, my mother leaned against the sofa, her expression unreadable. I need more time to think about this. When my mother said she needed time, it meant the decision was all but made. Brian sat on the adjacent sofa, radiating a serene calm that grated on my nerves. I tossed Amber to my mother and grabbed him by the arm. "Come with me." Once he followed me downstairs, I gritted my teeth and demanded, "You've been pretending to be poor all along, haven't you?" He seemed flustered. "I wasn't pretending. That's all my parents left me. It's worthless unless I sell it." "Then why did you suddenly decide to sell it?" He suddenly reached out, his fingers lightly brushing the hair by my ear. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes you have to make choices. Because of you, I finally have a home." I felt uneasy inside, itching to snap at him. But looking at his ethereal beauty, my anger flared up only to die down, trapped inside. Seeing my shifting expressions, he asked cautiously, "Do you blame me?" "I've already asked Uncle to sell all the ventilation boxes. Only that barren plot remains. Once Amber grows up, I'll pass it on to her." My emotions felt strange now, a mix of joy and bitterness. I turned my face away, feigning disinterest as I admired the street scenery and casually asked him, "So when do you plan to marry me?" "The sooner the better. Preferably tomorrow." I turned back to find his exquisite fox-like eyes fixed deeply on me. A sudden wave of confidence washed over me, and I began to act spoiled. Then I want a diamond ring and a wedding dress. "Fine, we'll buy them. Buy them now." As soon as they're ready, we'll go get married. All right now. He agreed readily, then grabbed my hand to hail a taxi by the roadside, heading straight for the downtown mall. Inside the bridal shop, Brian walked ahead of me. Though it was his first time wearing a suit, he seemed utterly at home in this world of opulent luxury, not a single flaw to be found. Even the sales assistant stole envious glances at me, constantly praising us as a perfect match, a heavenly pair. Even though I was used to compliments in high-end stores, I still blushed bright red. In the end, we chose a fishtail sparkle diamond wedding gown. To avoid delays for our upcoming ceremony, we bought the ready-to-wear dress outright, a 4-figure purchase. Admittedly, this dress wasn't as valuable as the 2 expensive gowns Eddie had given me, but I understood he had already given me everything he had. Next, we interlocked our fingers and slowly made our way toward the jewelry store, determined to buy a pair of reasonably priced wedding rings. The moment we stepped inside, we bumped into a familiar face. Huh? Chris, what are you doing here? The guy dressed head to toe in trendy brands was none other than Eddie. I quickly pulled Brian deeper into the store, feigning ignorance. Who? You must have the wrong person. But the guy wouldn't let it go, trailing behind us and calling out. Christina, why are you ignoring me? Brian stopped dead in his tracks, pointing at the guy with an icy glare. Didn't you say he was dead? I rarely saw him like this, so I could only stammer softly, he's still alive, but in my heart, he died long ago. He clearly didn't buy it, his eyes cooling like embers in a stove. Seeing this, I steeled my resolve and cut ties with the jerk on the spot. I'm warning you, Eddie. Stop bothering me. I have a husband now, handsomer than you, more loyal than you, and treats me better than you ever did. Finishing, I stood on tiptoe and planted a smack on the magnolia-hued cheek before me, then yanked him inside. Honey, let's go. Brian didn't utter a sound, but he handled me gently, letting himself be led away. After swiftly buying the wedding rings, we decided to scout out hotels again. Since we were having a wedding, we needed to secure the wedding planning company early. With so many complex details to finalize in just a few days, it felt rushed, and our pace naturally quickened. He took a few faster steps before turning back to wait for me. Hurry up. No way, I can't walk any faster. Then let's slow down. He turned back, took my hand, his gaze serene. Now, as the city lights began to glow, deep into the night, the chill wind blew, yet I felt an endless warmth surging through my body. I've never seen a more beautiful sight in my life than tonight. Really? Yes. It was true. I'd never seen a more beautiful sight than you. Hearing this, he merely smiled softly, then led me forward. Ahead, lights shone brightly, cars flowing like dragons. Home was near. More dramatic love stories coming. Subscribe if you're into this kind of mess. Tell us what kind of story you would like to watch.